So we come to the last topic. So what we have learned from the lesson of this COVID-19 pandemic, and are we ready yet for the next pandemic? So Dr. Ashwin.
Yes, nearly 4 o'clock already. Okay, it is the last topic, and I will give a short message to all of you. The first one is about I would like to ask all of you, to do the AAR about the COVID-19. AAR after action review. Did you already done it? Your experience is very benefit to the future, I think. For me, I try to ask my staff to do the AAR, and if we did not record or did not analyze it with the gap of the situation in the past, we will not improve ourselves. This is the one point. And the second thing about the fake news that we confront very like we had to cope with the fake news in the media. A lot of the fake news that PR mentioned in the beginning. We are the professional. We can support. We can giving the true data to the people. That we have many channels like a Facebook or Line or anything that we can help the social. And the last one that I would like to message my can I use the slide? The one is the expectation to our team is that no single institution or any one country has on the capacity to cope with the EID, emerging infectious disease in the future. I think the network is very important. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. So, Tony?
So, the lessons learned. So I just really support that last slide. I think I've tried to stress collaboration from the very beginning of this, and I think my comments about having those sort of documentations so that will facilitate collaboration are really, really important. I think people being part of a network, understanding what a particular role is in that network, not reduplicating stuff, supplementing stuff, or providing a unique service. Really thinking about that with your colleagues in other institutions and how you can best work together to get the most out of the resources available, both infrastructure and again personnel. It's the people that make the difference. I think it's quite extraordinary. I think we're being a little critical of ourselves about responses and that sort of thing. But the fact that assays like PCRs and rapid antigen tests could be developed as rapidly as they could with the quality that they were done with, and then to be run at such high volume so rapidly is an extraordinary feat. And then, at the same time for sort of vaccines to be developed at the same time using, so I think, the contribution of, the corporate understanding of molecular biology really has allowed us to understand and respond to this epidemic. But, everybody needs to play their part. I think you have to be agile. You can't be fixed in your ways. You have to be open to how to, keep scanning the horizon and see how things are changing, trying to predict how they're going to change going forward and be ready to seize those opportunities. With the diagnostic labs, I think this is just completely and always understood. It's not always understood in research laboratories, but it's having been brought up in diagnostic laboratories, I guess I just get it. But, you know, if you don't have good clinical data, then the laboratory data means nothing. You know, if you don't understand what's happening with the patient, then your laboratory results really don't mean anything, and vice versa. The laboratory data, as my colleagues here have said, can really change the way patient and populations are managed. So, you know, I think, you know, they're the lessons that I've learned, and I think that's all I'm going to say.
Oh, thank you, Tony. So, in my point of views, I think what we have learned that we need the accuracy of the scientific knowledge on the pandemic. So we have to adjust or judgment of the find the accuracy knowledge based on everything. So you have to work based on the accuracy data and drive it into the right way of the everything. So based on the accuracy data, and the next thing is I think the most important is the critical management, and you can if you can be flexible enough and ready to accept the uncertain things, uncertain situation, and ready to try everything in the different ways, so there is no mistakes, no right or no wrong. Just find the management way to done with it. I think so will be the flexible kind of critical management. So and the last things is I think the innovations, for example, the digitalization or automation or anything like innovation. So I think it's very important to fight with the pandemic. So I remember at the first wave, so many DIY of to finding the PPE or mask because of we have the severe shortage. So many new tryings of anything that could save life or to fight with the pandemics come up in several many ways. So I think that's the lesson that we have learned. If we can have that, I think we are ready for the next pandemic. And I would like to end with Dr. Anthony Fauci message saying that you have to be humble enough, you have to be open-minded enough and flexible enough to know that as things evolve and the data evolve, and you can get more evidence that you are likely to change a recommendation or to change a policy. That's not a mistake. That's a sign helping you to adjust to the evolving situation. Yeah. Thank you. So, Dr. Anurag, for the last.
I honestly don't have much to add because I think all the people in the panel have really said it well. The only thing I'd like to emphasize, maybe a couple of things. One is, on collaboration. I think things like pandemic cannot be dealt on their own, and collaborations have to happen not only within your country, but with other countries as well. I mean, one of the observations we had, sitting in Singapore and seeing around us that there were so many things that one could learn from each other. whether it was in using a Trace Together app or whether it was in the way, people were entering into shopping malls or whatever. So if governments are sharing more, things can be done much more, in terms of population health, right? So I think that's one important lesson at a macro level. And then at a lab level, honestly, there's so many things one can do, as I had said earlier. And I would just like to encourage all of you, maybe to really have that discussion with your teams and say, okay, let's make an actual work plan. What are the things we want to do? And just act on it. Even if you're able to take a few things and do it, you'll be in a far better place, and we'll be in a far better place. So I'll just encourage everybody to think and do something differently and something better. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So we think we have time for questions, maybe one or two questions. So anyone have a question, please? Any questions from the participant? Yes, please. So, yeah, please identify yourself and question.
My name is Piyapat, doctor from King Chulalongkorn Memorial Hospital, the Chulalongkorn Hospital. As Professor Anthony mentioned that we need to be flexible, can be as fast as virus. So I want to know which process of the laboratory that we need to be can be adaptable, maybe because we have instrument and we have a workflow or SOP. But if we already order the instrument, when we have maybe new variant of concern or monitoring, so how could we adopt to the change or maybe flexible because the instrument is still fixed because we already ordered the analytical instrument?
Yeah, he mentioned that if we have already have one machine to measure or to assay, have the certain assays, and like SARS-CoV, so we have variants change. So how we gonna have change if the assay need to be changed? Yeah.
So so I guess that was one of the points I wanted to make. So one of the dangers of, so I agree around automation being important, but as we automate, we also have to understand, right? So someone has to know how an assay works, because if all people become technicians that feed something into a machine and get an answer out, when an assay stops working, and it's just a black box, then the whole system breaks down. So part of what was said is that people need ongoing, continuing education, and so I think part of that is around the advantage of automation, but people in the laboratory also need to understand the syntax of how that assay works. Now, part of the problem with automation is that if it's a completely closed system, then you have to go back to the manufacturers of the closed system and say, you need to remake the assay for me because when I've run the controls, it works for Wuhan, but it doesn't work for whatever the next Omicron strain is, right? Or whatever comes after Omicron. So, your positive controls are working, but, you presume that this person has a new variant because they have the symptoms, they've got the clinical phenotype, but you're not getting amplification of or identification of the virus. So with a completely closed system, then you have to have a good relationship with the manufacturer. With more open systems, and if you have the expertise in the laboratory, then you can perhaps generate an in-house assay that you can verify, that you can use as a stopgap to address that that issue until, more formal validation of the assay can occur. If you think back to this time in 2020, that's what people were doing. The people who knew how to do PCR were taking the sequence as published, designing primers and testing whether they worked or not. They were making, in-house assays, right? And so it really depends on the machine and how much, and the kit that's run on the machine, whether you can interfere with that kit or whether it's completely closed. And I guess in a routine high throughput diagnostic lab, it's probably difficult to have multiple platforms, but I guess I don't work there on a day-to-day basis anymore, but as a reference laboratory, we always had multiple platforms so that if we did get into trouble, we could use a different platform to address that issue. I'm not sure if I've answered your question.
Yeah, you accurately answer my question. Thank you for your question.
May I help to answer this question also? For my point, I think for how to identify the unknown pathogen or the variant or mutation pathogens, and this is like now the molecular technique already developed so fast, and we have next generation sequencing. All of the laboratory capacity cannot do like this, and we have a collaboration together. If we have a network or we have a teamwork, we can help together to identify this one.
So that's why we have to have the network. Yeah.
Thank you for answering.
Any more questions? No? Okay, so today we have learned a lot from our speakers, so I would like to thank all speakers for the very informative and very helpful information. So I hope all of you can have some message back to your institute or your lab, and have a safe trip back home, and we'll see you again next year. Thank you very much.